At 45, most people don't choose chaos. They choose silence, distance, the quiet dignity of letting the world move on without correcting every lie it tells about you. They choose peace over noise, memory over momentum. And that's exactly why in this imagined telling, when Jessica Mulroney finally spoke, it didn't sound like gossip. It landed like gravity, heavy, inevitable, impossible to ignore.
Mulroney. Also, is Meghan Markle secretly fearing a split from Prince Harry?
You keep saying Meghan Markle, you know I'm Sussex now. You have kids and you go, no, I share my name with my children.
At 45, most people don't choose chaos. They choose distance. They choose rest. They choose the quiet dignity of letting stories pass without correction. They protect what remains of their peace. That's why in this imagined telling, when Jessica Mulroney finally spoke, it didn't land like gossip. It landed like gravity. People who wait this long aren't chasing relevance. They're unloading weight. For years, Jessica watched Meghan Markle's public story harden into something fixed, something protected by repetition. Interviews replayed, narratives looped. Sympathy slowly became identity. And while the world absorbed one version of events, another version sat quietly behind closed doors. Not because it was harmless, but because it was heavy. Jessica wasn't nearby. She wasn't adjacent. She was inside the room.
I was actually ready to tell you guys a story about the wedding.
Yeah.
Do you want to hear it?
Yes,
do
Okay. So I have identical twins.
Because people who wait this long aren't chasing relevance, they're unloading weight. For years, Jessica had watched Meghan Markle's public story solidify. She watched interviews loop endlessly on screens, watched talking points harden into accepted truth, watched sympathy turn into identity, and all the while, another version of events stayed sealed behind private doors, unshared. Not because it was harmless, but because it was heavy. She had been there, not adjacent, not nearby, inside the room.
No, there is no shunned girl squad takedown coming from her, at least. Now,
she heard the comments that never reached microphones. She saw expressions vanish the moment cameras appeared. And she stayed quiet because she believed loyalty meant endurance. That friendship meant absorbing discomfort without complaint. Until one day, silence stopped feeling protective and started feeling like complicity. She had heard the comments that never reached microphones, she had seen the expressions that disappeared the moment cameras appeared, and she had kept quiet, believing friendship meant absorbing discomfort without complaint, until silence stopped feeling like protection and started feeling like complicity. According to Jessica, the shift didn't come from one explosive moment, it came from repetition, patterns, small dismissals stacking up until they formed something undeniable. The first moment that truly unsettled her wasn't loud or angry. It was casual, comfortable, almost careless. Meghan allegedly waved off the queen as just a little old lady in a hat, questioning why anyone should bow. No malice, no insecurity.
Person get bullied, and I saw Meghan seemingly just ghost her, so I made this video defending her, putting it out there. Guys, if you didn't watch that video,
just dismissal. And that's what made it chilling. Just dismissal. And once that lens formed, it colored everything. Tradition wasn't meaningful, it was inconvenient. Respect wasn't sincere, it was performance. The role wasn't an honor, it was a platform. Prince William became a private punchline. His seriousness exaggerated. His restraint mocked. Kate publicly praised, privately reduced. Her smile labeled calculated. Her composure framed as dull. Charles became impression material. His speeches, his gestures turned into entertainment behind closed doors. Even Princess Anne, decades of service, relentless work, no theatrics, reportedly dismissed as irrelevant. In Meghan's private hierarchy, visibility mattered more than duty, attention mattered more than endurance. And Jessica realized this wasn't humor, it was philosophy. One of my closest girlfriends is here, Jessica Mulroney. This wasn't about personalities clashing, it was values colliding. The monarchy is built on longevity. Meghan in this telling was built on impact. Those systems were never going to coexist quietly. The moment everything crystallized didn't happen in public. It happened at a private dinner table, wine flowed, phones were away, Meghan relaxed, confident, in control. When someone mentioned the Queen, Meghan allegedly said, if it weren't for me, they'd still be stuck in the past. I'm the only interesting thing that's happened to that family in decades. The room went silent, forks paused, glasses suddenly became fascinating. And and Harry looked down. Well, I saw a person get bullied, and then I saw Meghan seemingly just ghost her. So I made this video defending her, putting it out there. Guys, if you didn't watch that video, that was the moment mockery turned into belief. Not a joke, not venting, a declaration. And once entitlement shows itself, that clearly loyalty becomes optional. Hours later, Meghan smiled for cameras again, polished, gracious, respectful, but Jessica never saw that smile the same way again. Because once you hear someone claim dominance in private, you can't pretend the public version is complete. According to those present, Harry didn't always laugh. Sometimes he went quiet, but silence in those moments wasn't neutrality, it was permission. I realized Jessica actually shared the receipts. Harry had been raised to revere his grandmother, to see duty as inheritance, not performance. But he was also a husband, and in those rooms, the power dynamic was clear. Meghan spoke, others adjusted. Jessica recalled his jaw tightening, eyes fixed on the table, conflict playing out silently. Marriages don't fracture from shouting, they fracture from imbalance left unspoken. For years, Jessica defended Meghan, challenged critics, absorbed doubt, until the request came, not for friendship, for cover. For narrative protection, for silence that carried risk, cryptically shade her excessful. And more importantly, do you actually know why they're excess? When Jessica refused, the friendship didn't fade, it vanished. Messages stopped, invitations disappeared, access revoked. Loyalty that demands self-destruction isn't loyalty, it's control. And that realization didn't make Jessica furious, it made her speak. She understood once truth is released, it no longer belongs to you. But she spoke anyway. Not theatrically, not to punish, but because silence had begun to cost her more than honesty ever could. Tears didn't come when headlines appeared, they came later, alone. When the phone stopped ringing and the weight finally lifted. Loyalty, she realized, had been redefined around her. Silence became expectation, agreement became obligation. Who runs Kleinfeld's in Toronto, and she's helping me find the dress. Say yes. Say yes to the dress. Suit style. She replayed moments she once dismissed. Eye rolls. Jokes that cut just a little too deep. At first, she blamed stress. But venting doesn't require superiority. What unsettled her wasn't mockery, it was certainty. The belief that the monarchy was lucky to have Meghan, not the other way around. The last conversation wasn't dramatic, it was transactional. Meghan spoke less like a friend and more like a manager. When assets stop performing, they're discarded. Weeks passed. Then months. No reconciliation, no anger, just erasure. And that revealed the truth. Affection had always been conditional. When Jessica finally spoke publicly, she didn't accuse. She described. And still the reaction exploded. Betrayal, jealousy, courage, bitterness. The same polarization Meghan often received. What Jessica didn't expect was silence. Now, Meghan Markle's ex... Jessica posted a cryptic quote saying that her detachment game is strong. As loving as I am, my detachment game is strong too. Behind that silence, tears. Private ones. Because Jessica wasn't an outsider. She was inside the room. Insiders don't shatter narratives with speculation, they do it with familiarity. Harry noticed the change, the fixation, the repeated questions. Why would she say this now? He didn't answer. Because a thought had begun forming. People who lie exaggerate. People who wait usually do so because the truth isn't convenient. Jessica didn't keep going. She didn't escalate. She stepped back. And that restraint said everything. This wasn't revenge, it was release. No apologies, no confrontations, just distance. Meghan moved forward, but something cracked. Jessica moved forward lighter. And the public moved on. But once the private version enters the public conversation, it never fully disappears. It lingers, it reshapes, and everyone involved has to live with what follows. And that lingering shadow didn't just hang over public perception, it seeped quietly into every interaction that followed. Because once people begin to sense that the story they were sold might be incomplete, they start rewatching everything with different eyes. Old interviews feel rehearsed, old tears feel timed, old smiles feel practiced, not fake, but curated. And curation, once noticed, can never be unseen. According to this imagined account, Meghan didn't unravel publicly. She tightened control. Coverage was monitored more closely. Friends were filtered more carefully. Loyalty was no longer assumed, it was tested? Who stayed quiet? Who defended? Who questioned? The circle narrowed not out of fear but strategy. Because when someone from the inside speaks, the danger isn't what they say, it's what they know. Jessica, meanwhile, felt something unfamiliar, relief mixed with grief. Relief because the weight was finally off her chest. Grief because she was mourning something she once believed was real. Friendship doesn't always end with betrayal. Sometimes it ends with clarity. And clarity can be more painful than anger because it leaves no room for illusion. She began to understand that what she mistook for closeness had always been proximity. She had been useful, trusted, present, until presence became inconvenient. That realization didn't make her want revenge, it made her want distance. Real distance. The kind that isn't announced. The kind that doesn't need explanation. In this telling, there were moments when Jessica almost regretted speaking. Not because it wasn't true, but because truth has consequences no one can fully predict. People you never expected turn cold. Others project motives onto you that were never yours. Some listen only to respond, not to understand. That's the cost of breaking silence. You don't control how your honesty is received. But there were also moments of quiet confirmation. Messages from people who said, "I thought I was the only one who noticed." From those who had been dismissed, sidelined, or quietly erased after usefulness expired. Patterns begin to emerge when stories overlap. And patterns are harder to dismiss than accusations. What made this fracture different from the many celebrity fallouts before it was the restraint? No scorched earth interviews. No tell-all books. No monetized confessions. Just a single opening of a door that had been closed for too long. And then silence again, but this time chosen, not imposed. For Meghan, according to this imagined ending, the silence felt different, not protective, exposing. Because control works best when no one questions the frame. Once the frame cracks, even slightly, everything inside it feels unstable. Not destroyed, just unsettled. And unsettled narratives demand more effort to maintain. Harry, caught in the middle, reportedly withdrew further. Not publicly, privately. Less commentary, more distance. The kind of distance that doesn't start with anger, but with exhaustion. Because defending a story is harder when doubt creeps in quietly instead of crashing loudly. Doubt doesn't demand confrontation, it just waits. And that may be the most uncomfortable part of this entire imagined story. There is no villain speech, no dramatic exposure, no final verdict. Just people realizing too late that silence can mean different things depending on who controls it. Sometimes silence is loyalty, sometimes it's fear, and sometimes it's simply the moment before someone decides they've carried enough. Jessica didn't walk away vindicated. She walked away lighter. Meghan didn't collapse, she recalibrated. Harry didn't rebel, he retreated. And the public didn't unanimously choose a side. It debated, argued, dissected, and then moved on, as it always does. But beneath that movement, something subtle remained. A shift, a hesitation, a pause before automatic belief. And in the world of carefully managed narratives, hesitation is powerful because it doesn't accuse, it questions. And questions don't fade as easily as headlines. In the end, this fictional account isn't about one friendship ending. It's about what happens when private behavior brushes too closely against public myth. When the people who were supposed to protect the story quietly step away from it. Not loudly, not cruelly, just honestly. And honesty, once released, doesn't scream, it doesn't chase, it waits, it settles, and it stays. And it stays. And it stays. And it stays.